Just a sec. It's preparing.
Okay.
All right, we should be live now.
All right, Sarah.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Sarah Peets, and I am a member of the Nebraska Arts Council Board of Directors. And on behalf of the Nebraska Arts Council, I would like to welcome you to this panel meeting. We have convened to review applications in the Arts Project Grant category. Decisions made by this panel this morning will determine funding for all the applications, and they will be reviewed by the Nebraska Arts Council at the next meeting, which will meet December 13th, 2022. I would like to introduce our Executive Director, Suzanne Weiss, first, and see if Suzanne has any comments at this point.
Well, I just want to welcome any listeners, observers to this panel. This is your government at work. The big difference between private support and public support is that you can watch the process. Everyone has an equal chance at the grant table, whereas with foundations and other private donors, they make their decisions behind closed doors, and you often really don't know why your proposal did not succeed. So it's something that you have to celebrate, that we have a system in government that is transparent and open for you. And in addition, because of that, it's important that you always include your elected officials in invitations to your events. They don't always come, but persistence is the goal. If their office receives your invitations or you're on their feeds, social media wise, it sinks in, and particularly when you thank them. So if you're receiving a grant from the Nebraska Arts Council, never hesitate to thank them in person, via an email, or even a letter. So with that, I wish you all good luck, and I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Thank you, Suzanne. And now I would like to have introductions of our panelists for this, this grant review today. I'll call on each one of you one by one, and I'll start with Marcy Brandt.
Hi, my name is Marcy Brandt. I'm the executive director for the Minden Opera House in Minden, Nebraska.
Thanks, Marcy. And next is Michelle Dudley.
Good morning. I am Michelle Dudley, and I'm on the Nebraska Arts Council Board of Directors.
Thanks, Michelle. And next is Erica Nelson.
Good morning. I'm Erica Nelson, and I serve as a consultant for the Kansas Creative Arts Industries Commission.
And our final reviewer is Shannon Walenta.
Good morning. I'm Shannon Walenta, and I am the managing director at Opera Omaha in Omaha, Nebraska.
And thank you all for sharing your expertise and your experience with us today. I also want to introduce the staff members that are present today and helping out. First of all, you met Suzanne Weiss, Executive Director. We also have with us Mike Markey, Deputy Director, and Rachel Morgan, our Program Specialist and leader of this effort this morning. We also have with us Sam Henney, who is the Communications Manager and can help and assist with any online technical issues if they arise. Our Grants Administrator, Jennifer Dreibelbus, is here and managing the scoring in the online grant system. And taking minutes is Stephanie Plummer, Program Coordinator. And so we will try to help her out by speaking clearly and concisely and not moving too quickly. Next, I will turn this over to Mike. And would you begin by discussing the grant program and the panel process, Mike?
There we are. All right. Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everybody. A couple of housekeeping things real quickly. First of all, a reminder to the panelists that although they can't see the streamers, they can see you. And so if you need to excuse yourself or anything like that, remember to turn your microphones off and turn your camera off or anything like that. And then if you need to take a break, go ahead and come on back. As a panel, we will, if we go over an hour, we will plan to take a quick break. We'll let the audience know about that, and we'll let you know when we'll reconvene. Okay. And then now for the panel process itself, the panelists have received and have read all the applications in advance. Each application has been assigned a primary and a secondary reviewer. The applications will be discussed and then individually scored by each panelist according to the published NAC criteria for this category that's available on the website. The panelist scores will then be averaged and the applications will be ranked according to that average score from highest to lowest. Panelists will then determine which of the applications merit funding based upon those scores. A mathematical formula will later be applied to determine the grant award amounts for the approved applications. The award calculations will be based upon the average score for each application and the available funds in this category. Higher ranking applications will receive a greater percentage of their request. Finally, the NAC staff members, and in particular in this case, Rachel, are here to assist with the panel process, but will remain neutral so as not to influence the panel process. As such, they do not engage in the panel discussions except to add clarification about grants or procedures when appropriate. Okay. Final note, the applications will be discussed in alphabetical order and a copy of the applications order is available on the NAC website. That's it. Thank you, Sarah.
All right, thanks. Are there any other questions among our panelists or staff? Then we will get started, and I will go through the process that we will follow for each grant review. First of all, Rachel will provide us with a brief synopsis of each application. I will then call on the primary reviewer. I will then call on the secondary reviewer, and then we will have discussion of any additional comments. And once we are done with the discussion, the panelists have a moment to update their and complete their scoring should they wish to. And once we're ready to move on, I'll ask each of the panelists each time to give me a thumbs up so I know that you are prepared to move on. So we will proceed with the first application, and I will turn it over to Rachel, and the applicant is Amplify Arts, and the project title is Alternate Currents.
Great, thank you, Sarah. This application is to support the 2023 Alternate Currents program, which is a 3-part program encompassing a 10-member working group of local artists who meet monthly, a regularly updated blog, and a public panel discussion, which occurs bi-monthly. Alternate Currents opens space for conversation, ideation, and action around national and international discussions in the arts that have a profound impact at the local level.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel. And our primary reviewer is Erica Nelson. So Erica, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. So in this application, one of the noted stated goals was that there is a lack of an MFA program within Omaha's boundaries. So the program was really designed to sort of fill that gap of deeper conversations in the arts as it impacts community. So that part I very much appreciated, identifying a niche and developing programs to address that identified gap. I thought it's a good continuing series and an emphasis on non-institutional experience and voices, and gathering those non-institutional experiences and voices in those deeper conversations. So I thought both of those were incredibly strong just as an overall project concept. Planning and budget documents, I thought were all right. There were some vague areas, especially within the budget. So I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more clarification when you start lumping things into project supplies. Having an idea of what project supplies those might be, especially in something that has very clear, defined examples. Your budget is part of that story. So everything in your budget can be used to help tell that story of your project and also clarify and prove where those monies need to be spent. I did enjoy that most of the Nebraska Arts Council dollars do go to paying the artists. And for me, that will always be a big bonus that these funds recognize the power of the arts and that artists are at the core of these programs. This does appear to be a program that's already in progress. So I think part of a continuing project is continuing to tell that story, but also tell why it has grown or why it is needed to continue. So maybe a little bit more of that proof of performance from previous ones would strengthen applications in the future. In outreach and engagement, community-wise, how do people not in the arts or creative sector loop find out about this programming? And I do understand the power of a network of once you're in a program, that's how word spreads. And if that is the case, that is absolutely fine. But I think part of an outreach component that could be strengthened would be, where does this intersect with the non-arts sector, or how does it impact city and community planning? How does it impact the institutions that are there that you've identified where your gap is and what it's filling? But I think some of those branches out into those partnering organizations could be a little bit more clearly stated. There's a good comparison of Omaha's demographic with the project makeup, but I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more, a larger illustration of how the demographic and project makeup metrics relate. And those, I believe, are my comments for this application.
Thank you, Erica. And our secondary reviewer is Marcy Brandt.
Hi. Okay. So in looking at this application, it's funny you said niche, Erica, because that's kind of the word that I came up with too, is that this fills a niche needed. But I was also kind of like, when I hear arts programming, I tend to think of like public performance. That's just my bias. So I'm admitting that going in. But I think it sounds to me like it's a necessary component and a good component to have some of those discussions and to have those conversations. But I also agree that I kind of was wanting to see more of how does that play out in the community leadership? Like, are we making impact and change at like the government level and so on? You know, I think it sounds like a great concept. I love the idea of artists coming together to address arts issues and things like that. So I think there's ways to maybe hone in a little bit more, but overall, you know, there's always room. I said, well, yeah, in some of my comments I said too, there's good focus on the importance of the interaction between the arts and the underserved and the community as a whole. Just want to see a little more action, you know a little bit more detail as to how this actually does go forward. And that's about all I had.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. And are there any additional comments by the reviewers?
Marcy, I had the same sort of bias about how this was different from a performance or an installation or something like that. I actually talked through that with Rachel to understand better how and why this does fit under the arts project grant, the grouping there. one thing I just wanted to give a shout out for is the recognition by Amplify Arts that technology or lack thereof can be a real barrier to people being able to apply for a program like this. And them specifically stating that they will provide a computer to somebody if they need one in order to apply, I think is really wonderful. In addition to having the application materials available in multiple languages, including American Sign Language. So kudos to Amplify for that. I did have one question on the budget, which was they included $3,500 in advertising costs, but in the narrative stated that the majority of promotional activity is through email and social media. So I was very curious about what else they're investing in terms of marketing and promotion and garnering interest in this program. And those were my only comments.
Thank you, Shannon. So now, panelists, you can take a moment to complete and do any modification of your scores for this particular application. And once you are prepared to move on to the next review, please just give me a thumbs up. I'll watch the screens. Erica, Shannon, Michelle, and Marcy, thank you. Great, good discussion. Thank you, reviewers. We'll move on to the next application, and that is BFF Omaha Inc. Our primary reviewer is, again, Erica. So Erica, I'll turn it back over to you.
I'll do a little synopsis, so that way you guys have time. That's okay. It gives you time to move to the next one. It's the buffer. All right. This application is for funds to pay for interdisciplinary artists to participate in First Friday Pride on June 2nd of 2023. Activities will include artist vending, street performances, visual art exhibitions, a public art project, and more. First Friday Pride takes place in the Benson Creative District and brings Omaha's diverse residents together to celebrate queerness, build community, and encourage safe spaces. They estimate the attendance around 2,500, with additional reach through virtual programming and public art.
Thank you, Rachel. Now I'll turn it over to Erica for the primary review.
All right. So one thing that caught my eye, especially in going to some of their provided support materials, was that big and bold on their Facebook banner, building community through arts engagement. So I think they have a very clear understanding of how important arts engagement is to a specific identified community. And I think they were just very clear throughout on who they are, what their goals are, the definitions of their community and within their community, but not using that as a limiter to outreach. Artistic quality is difficult to gauge in festival type events, but I think the merit is very high in that they've got a good proof of performance from previous years, and that clear goal in creating a safe space for expression within an inclusive community runs throughout their presented narrative and the presented works. In planning and evaluation, they had very specific goals and measures, attainable because they're spelled out. So once you identify a goal with, we want to increase our audience from this to this, or we want to increase our performances from this to this, it becomes more than just an idealized goal. It becomes an attainable, provable goal. So I very much appreciated that. They're also doing a very lot with a very little. So it's a small ask for the sort of bang for their buck that they are requesting. Very clear, descriptive plan for getting what they want done. And again, in outreach and engagement, they've once again done their homework on demographics and audience, as well as illustrating how that applies to the festival, what they're planning, and the area in which they're participating, and very specific detailed examples of those community partnerships. So overall, I think that idea of who they are and what their goals came through in every part of this application for me.
Thank you, Erica. And our secondary reviewer for this application is Shannon Walenta. So Shannon, I'll turn it over to you.
Erica, as you said, it can be really hard to measure artistic quality in a festival setting, but I did note that their curation team has very specific criteria that they're using to select their artists. So they do have structure and a process around that. I thought their photo display, their collage of photos for one of their work samples showed a really dynamic event with a very engaged community. And it reflected not only the LGBTQ community, but a very broad age range, racial diversity. There were families there. I love their focus on youth, and particularly queer youth who might be at risk, and helping them to gain resources and understand more about how to, find safe spaces. As far as planning and evaluation, I echoed the very clear purpose for this. I love that they are leveraging local businesses to really have a high level of social media engagement in terms of promoting the event. And let's see if I have anything you haven't already said in outreach and engagement. In terms of underserved communities, a large percentage of their participants are below the median gross income or within the poverty rate for the surrounding zip codes for the event. I think that about covers it.
Thank you, Shannon. And any additional comments by the reviewers? Okay, hearing none. We will again take a moment to complete the scoring.
Hang on, Marcy, you unmuted. Was there something you wanted to say?
No, I was just going to say, I can't see the full application at this exact second, but I did have a note that I didn't see any corporate support in the budget. I didn't see a lot of, business outreach or anything like that. It just would be nice to see, some partnerships with area businesses, maybe perhaps explored and gosh, that could help fund the activities too. So that was my only 2 cents there.
Thank you, Marcy. Sorry, I wasn't catching that. Okay, great. Good discussion, good review. And once you are ready to move on to our third application, please give me a thumbs up. Got it, Erica? Got it, Michelle, Marcy, and Shannon. Great. Thank you. We will now go to the next application, which is Blixt, locally grown. And our primary reviewer is Marcy Brandt. And before we go to Marcy, Rachel, will you please give us a synopsis?
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. This application is to help pay Nebraska artists involved in the performances of Puddin' and the Grumble, which is written by Becky Boson and David Von Kampen. It's a musical that explores the challenges of poverty and childhood hunger. Puddin' and the Grumble is produced by Blixt to shine a light on this highly relevant issue in the community, to also collaborate with other agencies to focus on local resources, and to bring the show to Lincoln students with limited access to professional live performances.
Very good. Thank you. So now we will hear from Marcy.
Okay. I love the concept. I love the idea of this project. Tackling this issue through theater, I thought was really great, because I think a lot of kids have shame when it comes to this issue. And, you know, it's hard to ask for help and to acknowledge that you need help. So I thought it was a cool way to kind of get a conversation started with kids. I like that the cast is the cast from when it was originally done. So that's kind of neat to have that experience, having them come back and do it again. And that speaks to the content too, I think, to some extent, that they're willing to come back and do it again and take it around again. So I liked that a lot. I thought the goals were stated, but there were a lot that weren't really measurable. And so it's a little difficult to kind of track some of those statistics and how to quantify some of those goals. But the plan to execute the work seems well thought out. The budget seemed reasonable given the scope of what they're doing. Obviously outreach and engagement is a big one on this one. That's the entire point, is to take this out to schools and to kids. It addresses an underserved audience, obviously, an audience that has a need, and promotes partnerships with other community organizations. So I love that there's these relationships between the food banks and other resources so that it can create conversation. So I love the nature of this project, and the fact that it's already kind of been done and it's just being kind of revisited and reshaped to be taken out further, I think is great. So I thought it was a solid application.
Great, thank you. And our secondary reviewer is Shannon Walenta. You're on, Shannon.
Thank you. I also love the reworking of this event, or this piece, to make it smaller and more flexible to go into different types of venues. I think particularly the fact that they're doing out of school time performances with this in partnership with the Lincoln Community Learning Centers that's a significant partnership, and there's a great need for programming on those out of school days. So that's a wonderful partnership that they are engaging in. I also love that they have a curriculum guide that they are providing to educators in advance of bringing the show into schools, so that they can really prep the students for what they're going to experience, but then also have meaningful discussion once they have seen the piece. I also really love that the show itself has representation of different ethnicities, ages, body types, and physical ability, so that kids can really see themselves, or even adults can really see themselves represented in this piece. As far as the timeline, it's very detailed, but I really didn't see a whole lot in terms of marketing and promotion schedule, and how they are really getting the word out that this is available to the community, and also to educators and teachers. I know can work on a pretty far timeline in terms of figuring out if they can bring something in or give up class time for an activity like that. So I think they could be a little clearer on the promotional aspects. Yeah, I love the partnership with the food bank, and that this is, for many of the students, likely going to be their first introduction to live performance.
Thank you, Shannon. And anything additional, Erica or Michelle? Great. Then take a moment to check your scores, complete your scores, and let me know by a thumbs up sign, either virtually. Thanks, Marcy. Thanks, everybody. Michelle. Thank you, everyone. Great. Then we will go on to the next application. And Rachel, please give us a synopsis of Hastings, Nebraska, PFLAG.
Great. This application is to help fund the Proud Voices on the Plains Festival, which will be held in June of 2023, and will be showcasing the best of queer culture in many forms. The goal of this new festival will be to include as many voices, disciplines, and media across queer culture as possible. The disciplines to be included include music, dance, poetry, literature, comedy, storytelling, theater, film, video, fine art, puppetry, emerging media, and others as they become apparent.
Okay, thank you. And our primary reviewer for this particular application is Shannon. So Shannon, I'll let you take it over.
So I applaud the ambition around the creation of this new festival. That is a lot of different disciplines that they are striving to include, and really would offer a very comprehensive arts experience for anybody who chooses to attend. I also love the way that they are growing the opportunities for LGBTQIA+ artists and community members to engage with each other, building on what is already happening with the Heartland Pride weekend. So my understanding is that the Heartland Pride events are on Saturday. The new Proud Voices Festival is Saturday night into Sunday. So there's kind of this intersection and almost an expansion, even though they're two different events, expansion into this full weekend of offerings. They also have broad partnerships in place that are very strong with organizations like Out Nebraska as a co-producer, the Hastings Museum as a primary venue, the Johnny Carson Center for Emerging Media at UNL that will provide one aspect of the multidisciplinary programming. Most of the artists have not yet been selected for this festival, but the two that have been selected, one is an award-winning author, the other is a nationally known poet and author. They define the artists that they're striving to engage as the best of the best or the very best voices. I didn't really get a clear understanding of what sort of artistic merit or quality they are looking for as they engage the rest of the artists for the festival. As far as planning and evaluation, they have clear and measurable goals as far as attendance and income, but it's very subjective as far as artistic quality. And as we all know, that those things are very hard to measure. The timeline seems very reasonable. I did not see a proposed cutoff date by which they would have all of their artists contracted. So that's just a question in my mind. And there's some gray area between where Heartland Pride ends and the Heartland Pride weekend and the festival begins. And this particularly raised questions for me in the budget. There is $12,500 of income for Weekend of Pride tickets, which would, as near as I could ascertain, get you access to things on both the Saturday and the Sunday. And so it's just unclear to me if they have an income sharing arrangement or how that's working between the two different events that weekend. Evaluation focuses pretty much on the attendees, and I would encourage them to also include artist and partner feedback, especially as this is the first year of the event, so that they can take that into consideration as they plan going forward. As far as outreach and engagement, obviously this is geared toward queer artists, queer audiences. The fact that it is located in Hastings is a great central location that will hopefully attract from all sides of the state. And so that is a fantastic aspect of this. They did include clear demographics of the Hastings community, and it was evident that there is an increasing interest in LGBTQ and Pride Weekend activities and events from year to year. So they're being responsive to their community by creating this new festival. And I think their letters of support painted a picture of a lot of enthusiasm and excitement for this new event. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. And Erica, you have secondary review responsibilities.
Yeah, thank you. I do think there is a missed opportunity in the application in their outreach section. because of the nature of the event itself is all about outreach and inclusion. I was disappointed to see that we have no specific outreach activities planned as their first sentence in their outreach section. So I think that was an oversight just in the way that they were filling out the application. So I do want to encourage people to think about what that definition of outreach might be and always put something because I do think that that was a missed opportunity to reiterate why this is important to this area and some of those intangible outreaches that strictly by having it is an outreach activity. So I would have liked to have seen that a little bit stronger. But what I really enjoyed about this application was that stated deepening of the celebration and conversation into some of those more academic realms, which I do think gets glossed over. So I think that is something that really sets this application and event apart, is that it goes beyond what people think of as a celebration weekend and gets into the deeper, slower conversations that are sometimes hard to facilitate unless you have that targeted focus look. So I very much appreciated that part of this application. I had some of the same concerns that we don't need to reiterate on how you identify who is the best. I also liked in their goal setting that it wasn't just measurable, but there was also that inclusion of the ideal goals, so that they have the measurables, but it also has a foundational goal as an indicator of intention for the overarching process. Like, what change do you want to see in your community? So I do like that aspirational approach to what can be a very nuts and bolts sort of question. And I think that could have helped in that outreach specific question of, you can be aspirational there too, of by existing, you're outreaching. And in the planning, I thought the listing out of the planning showed the understanding of components needed for a live event. So I think they had a very good grasp on how complex events can be and listing those out fairly clearly. I think those were the only additions I had to the primary review.
Great comments, Erica. Thank you. And Marcy or Michelle, do either of you have any additional comments?
The only additional comment that I had that wasn't addressed already was the $50 participation fee. I just wondered if that might be prohibited to some people and if there were any other funding options that might be out there. So.
Thank you. Good observation.
And I had a couple quick things too. I would like to see a little more evidence of local partnering. There wasn't really a lot of, I mean, outside of the museum and maybe the one business that's doing the comedy event, you know, just wanting to make sure they've got support at the local level too. And then just, it's huge for the first year out, like incredibly ambitious. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a negative, just wondering if, you know, me, I would want to start a little smaller, but maybe that's just me. You know, good on them for just diving in and going big. So.
Very good. Good points. Thank you. So we'll take a minute and update and complete the scoring before we move on, and signify by thumbs up. Got it. Thanks, everyone. So we will move on to the Little Red Hen Theater, and we will start by Rachel's synopsis of this grant application.
Great. So this application is to help fund a portion of their 2023 season, which they've entitled Here We Go Again. They plan to reach an estimated 1,500 people in Northeast Nebraska. The productions included are a comedy, The Play That Goes Wrong, the Pulitzer Prize winning drama Night Mother, their annual drama camp, and an 80s themed murder mystery. It also includes a portion of the Main Street Wakefield Market series that they present in partnership with their economic development office called Wakefield Progressive.
Thank you, Rachel. And Marcy is our primary reviewer on this application. Go ahead, Marcy.
All right.
Oh, excuse me, Shannon.
I was thinking I was number 2, but okay, I'll go. No, go ahead, Shannon.
Thank you.
I would like to say first off that this was an extremely well-crafted application. I was very impressed with how well it was put together, and that everything was very, very clearly answered. So kudos to them for that. I love that this is a community that is producing theater that is not just fun and entertaining. They are willing to challenge their audiences to think and to learn and to grow together. And I'm largely referencing their selection of Night Mother, which not only is a Pulitzer Prize winning play, but it's difficult themes. It centers around suicide and mental health issues. And they are willing to put that on their stage and create conversation around it. So it's balancing out lighter fare and really offering a pretty well-rounded season for their attendees. Their drama camp is filling a gap for arts education that seems to be somewhat missing in their area. And although they are casting primarily local performers, they are holding auditions and they are inviting a wide range of people, a wide range of ages and skill levels to participate in their productions. As Rachel mentioned, they also partner on their Wakefield markets by providing artists for performances involved with that. And they do have clearly outlined selection criteria for those Wakefield market artists. I did have a little bit of an issue with their video links, their video samples. The first link basically just took me to their YouTube page where all their videos lived. And so I had to kind of pick through and do a little bit of a sampling. It would have been helpful to have a specific video and or a timestamp on a specific video for a section that they thought was most useful. The link to their promo videos did not load for me. I don't know, Marcy, if you had that same issue, but I was not able to access that. Their goals are very clearly identified and measurable, and are also very clearly tied to their evaluation tactics. Their planning timeline is very well thought out and comprehensive, and their budget has adequate detail. And I also appreciated the explanation of why the salary for the managing director was not included, or no portion of that was included in the budget for this, since it is supported separately by a local foundation. They provided a very clear picture of the community demographics and how the community benefits from the work of the organization. They have partnerships with the local health department in place to strengthen their ability to engage the audiences in conversation around the difficult subject matter of their play Night Mother. And at the same time, they're building awareness of community resources through talkbacks with that play, which is critically important because it's another subject area that has taboo around it and people might be hesitant to speak up. So I applaud them for providing resources and also printed material for attendees. They have a great promotional plan in place that includes distribution of materials in English and Spanish. And their low ticket prices keep these events accessible while their community and education events are free. So all in all, I think this is a very strong application that speaks loudly about their engagement with their community and their responsiveness to their community.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Shannon. Now, Marcy, you're up for the secondary review. Thank you.
No problem. I don't have a whole lot to add. I would totally agree. It's a nice diversity in their season, and speaking as a small community, much like them, impressive to see them tackling and partnering, tackling some of the big issues and finding those resources and finding those partners. I was kind of making notes myself, to be honest. So love to see they're pairing with the community, the outreach along with the economic development group is super cool. Just seeing them involved in various age groups, various ways, just some creative out of the box thinking in a couple of things too. I applaud them for realizing that they need to reach outside of their community and get into their bigger area. They noticed they kind of called attention to that in their demographic discussions and stuff. I thought it was awesome. Thought they did a great job.
Thank you. Anything additional, Erica or Michelle? Any comments to add?
I just wanted to add, just to reiterate how important it is to bring quality live theater, live performances to rural communities. For some people, this is the only chance they're going to get to engage in something like that. So kudos to them.
Great comment. Thank you. We'll take a moment to update scoring, and you can let me know when you're ready to move on with the thumbs up. And then we will do the next grant review, which is Metropolitan Community College review. And we will then take a break following that next review. I think that'll be good timing. And did I see everybody's? Shannon, did you get? Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. So our next grant, again, is Metropolitan Community College, and we'll start with Rachel's synopsis of this application.
Thanks, Sarah. Metropolitan Community College's 32nd Annual International Fair will be held in April of 2023 at the South Omaha campus. Festivities will begin with a naturalization ceremony that welcomes new U.S. citizens and includes diverse artistic stage talent that continues throughout the day, along with an opportunity to visit cultural and informational booths. Audience members can attend in person or they can connect online.
Great, thank you, Rachel. And now our primary reviewer is Marcy.
All right. So first of all, I was blown away by this concept. I've never heard of this event, and I love the linking of the naturalization with then obviously this cultural outreach event. And I thought, man, that is brilliant. I love that. So lots of cool ways to tie these cultures into the community, to link the arts, inclusion, all of it kind of coming together in one big, fantastic day. I think that's awesome. The artists seem to be well qualified so far. Leadership seems to have experience. It's a running event. Long history in the community, so clearly the planning has been fine-tuned, but it's nice to hear that there's new flexibility so that they've been willing to, expand and go online and offer some things online, I think is great. Goals could be a bit more specific and measurable, at least some of them anyway. How do you want to improve this event over the coming years? What have you learned from the past? A lot of good theoretical and big picture goals, but not as easy to evaluate kind of just the nuts and bolts of some things. I would like to see a little more marketing funding being dedicated to increase the awareness outside of the immediate neighborhood. It seems to me like there's a lot of potential for this to be even bigger than it is. And maybe a bigger marketing budget to kind of increase the awareness in the community as a whole, instead of just, it felt to me like it was pretty focused on the specific neighborhood and the specific area. And I just would like to see them just blow that baby up because I think it's awesome. As far as outreach and engagement, obviously that is, what it is focused on is kind of just being in the community and exposing all of their different cultures to everyone. I would like to also, again, to kind of see them reach out to those who are not underserved, to educate them, to kind of broaden their horizon a little bit and get into some of those neighborhoods that maybe don't have the diversity that this neighborhood has, and kind of pull more people in. I just want them to grab more and more and more people. Yeah, other than that, I think it sounds like a fantastic event and I love it.
Thank you, Marcy. And secondary reviewer is Shannon Walenta.
Well, congratulations to them for that they're providing opportunity for discourse and exploration and intersection of different cultures, which is something we need in this time. I do have some questions about this application. One was they had a significant chunk of their budget dedicated for artists who have not yet been engaged for participation, but I didn't see any criteria listed for how they're choosing those artists. They will, as far as planning and evaluation, they are planning to deploy a survey to help them plan for the future. I would love to see some of the types of questions they plan to ask in that survey and how that's going to inform decisions going forward. I also saw in their timeline several references to planning for a fashion show, but unless I missed it, I didn't actually see any mention of a fashion show as an aspect of the fair. And in outreach and engagement, they had very clear demographics, which is fantastic, both for the community and the college. I think it would be helpful to see some analysis from past attendance, if they have it, of what percentage are the college students and what percentage is the public, which would then maybe help what you were talking about, Marcy, about more marketing and promotion if they aren't drawing as many community members as they would like to attend this event. And again, kudos to them that they are providing free bus transportation or funding for schools to attend, with covering their busing costs. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Shannon. Any additional comments from Michelle or Erica? Michelle?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Erica?
I think in that outreach engagement narrative, they've once again, that was a missed opportunity to restate some of those outreach activities that they very clearly are doing. It was just missing in that specific question, because just busing people in is outreach and accessibility. So I'd encourage applicants once again to, in thinking about outreach, look back at the narratives that you've written and pull some of those items out to make sure that they are addressing those questions, because we know you are. We just needed to see it in that box.
Good comments. All good comments. Thank you. So you have a moment then to update and complete your scoring. And we will take a break at this point. Rachel, should we reconvene in 5 minutes, or should we say 10:30?
I would say 10:30.
Okay, we'll reconvene. I have 10:23 right now, so we'll reconvene at 10:30. And do you then stop the recording for that?
We'll keep it going. Mike's gonna pop up a slide that says when we're gonna start back up, so anybody
great.
watching the live stream knows.
Okay, we'll see everybody at back here at 10:30. Thank you.
I would encourage everybody, we can't mute it though, so go ahead and mute your cameras and such.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Do we have everyone back and ready to roll after our break? Okay. So our next grant application is the McCook Mural Project. And Rachel, please give us a summary of that application.
Great. So this application is to help pay artists who assist in design and painting of a community-based mural. The community of McCook is approximately 8,000 people, and the surrounding region is approximately 20,000, and they will be asked to share history and stories in design sessions and storytelling circles. The artists will transform these conversations into visual images and create a cohesive mural and develop a color study. The design will be projected on a wall in McCook that is accessible and visible so that all may join in the painting of the piece in 2023.
Thank you, Rachel. And our primary reviewer is Erica.
All right, murals are so hot right now. And I was very eager to see a mural application and very pleased to see that it's not just a picture on a wall, that it follows an informed community approach to mural making that accounts for community participation. This one, especially in the planning, isn't just an artist coming in to facilitate, it's an artist training other artists in the region from a range of ages. So having that range of professional, emerging, and high school artists, not just age-wise, but that sort of career level-wise included in the team, I do believe will make for a truly enriching experience for the community and also for creating shared skill sets. So it is overall a good description of what a community-based mural project should be. In the planning and evaluation, I see a lot of tracking, but not yet that leap into evaluation on the project. And again, that's a hard thing to do when some of those proof of performances will be in story and later impacts, like what happens to those high school artists later? What happens to those mid-professional artists? Will they then have those skills to lead a mural project on their own? So I think that could have been bolstered by some of the big picture, but also that little picture evaluation set. What does successful engagement look like? But other than that, it was a good planning document and a feasible budget. There was a large line item for the professional paint, which I'm assuming is Nova Color. So I would have liked to have seen that broken down just a little bit. Even though I do believe it is a fair and accurate one, budget documents can tell your story also and will serve as a record for the next person planning. So breaking that down into how much is needed for base coat, how much is needed for colors, and how much is needed for top coat will provide an additional document for people down the line looking back at this project and really being able to understand the nuts and bolts whenever it's outside of somebody's fresh memories. So budgets, again, can really be part of that storytelling thing, just in how you write out what those components can be. Outreach and engagement, again, because of the nature of this type of mural, the outreach engagement was really strong for me. There's a good grasp of demographics, and those were used well to identify the specific engagement groups that were being targeted with this project. I also very much appreciated, again, that mentorship to teach the skills that will stay local to that region. That goes back to one of those very first goals of, we know we don't have an artist in our region who can tackle a big mural. So this is a solution that doesn't just provide an object, but again, provides that skills share, and that skill share that will stay local and engage an underserved rural area. The community engagement component was also strong in that they're not just gathering stories, but they're starting to create that infrastructure and example sets for continued community engagement that can grow and become parts of other projects. So overall, I felt it was a very strong application because those components come through in every part of their application very clearly from the beginning through the end.
Very good. Thank you, Erica. And Marcy, you will lead us in the secondary review.
I don't have a lot to add. Erica kind of nailed it. Basically just loved the intergenerational aspect of this. McCook has a great storytelling history with some of their other annual events. So I love that they're approaching it from this way. You know, that they are building a legacy project and not just like they said, you know, not just slapping paint on a wall. They're actually building, you know, a cool community experience around this. So I love that. Yeah, I don't know that I had much to add. Erica pretty much summed it all up. She's too good at her job.
Thanks, Marcy. And Michelle or Shannon, do you have any additional comments?
I love the aspect of using story circles to just then visually represent McCook's history and have so many voices involved in the project. I thought that was really important.
Thank you. All right, so take a moment to update or modify scores and let me know with the thumbs up that you're ready to move on. Thanks, Marcy and Shannon and Erica and Michelle. Very good. So next application is the Norfolk Area Visitors Bureau grant application. And I think Michelle has voiced a conflict at this point. So I believe she's going to be not in on this conversation as I understand it. And we'll let Rachel begin with giving a synopsis.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. This application is to help pay the selected artists who will have their sculptures on display during the 2023-24 Sculpture Walk in Norfolk. The Norfolk Area Sculpture Walk introduces contemporary public art and sculptures to the community's residents and visitors through an annually revolving public sculpture display.
All right, and our primary reviewer is Marcy, so I'll turn it over to Marcy.
Okay, so again, I'm taking notes on this because I thought, man, this is such a cool idea. I love that it's a rotational art walk, that it's different every year. And I thought, man, that's so cool because then it's, you know, something new to look at, new conversations to be had, new engagements. So amazing concept. I love it. I love that it's free access, that it's, you know, these sculptures are just there for people to enjoy. So obviously outreach is front and center in this because it's public art and people can just come and go as they please. Like the partnerships with the local businesses, the CVB, the arts community, a strong, you know, presence in the community and understanding that this art also reaps some economic benefits, which I thought is very self-aware, very cool to acknowledge that it is enhancing their entire community experience. So I love that. A bit difficult to fully evaluate if the selection committee is qualified in the traditional sense, but it's good to see that there's a lot of people with a wide variety of backgrounds so that they get a whole host of input as far as what pieces they select. So I thought that was cool. You know, the goal of having more users on the app is an achievable goal, but I'd like to see maybe some additional options or additional goals outside of that. You know, what what other things can we track? What other things can we expand on? For example, the number of guided tours, is that something that we can tap into? Where are they from? We do a little more exploration into where are people coming from to view them? Are they just local? Are they regional? Are they beyond, so many miles, whatever? It would be kind of nice to see if there was some thought into, okay, where are we pulling people from that are enjoying this stuff? The fact that this is located outdoors obviously is cool. Maybe some consideration for some brochures in Spanish, maybe reaching out to area nursing homes or other people that could be brought in to experience it. I don't know if there's any way to do a driving tour, not knowing the demographic or the kind of geography of the area and whatever, just, spitballing some ideas, but, continuing to reach out and publicize that this is a thing that's happening in the community would be super cool. And maybe there are some things happening organically that they don't know and they can't track because it is so public that maybe there are people that are doing these things that they just aren't aware of. So, but clearly stated the benefit that this is having on the community. And like I said, to see them being aware of the interaction between commerce and art, I thought was really cool.
Thank you, Marcy. And our secondary reviewer is Erica. Go ahead, Erica.
Thank you. Sculpture walks are a proven model across the U.S. I think one thing that comes up for me as an issue in this model is that who is at the core of this experience? If it is about just economic development, I do think the artists need to play a larger role in some of those conversations. Art walks do create a good circuit for artists who regularly submit to art walk opportunities, and it increases their exposure nationwide. But I'd also like to see some mechanisms for encouraging regional artists or illustrating how these sculpture walks can impact their practices or encourage them into this sort of possibility for their own artworks. So I would have liked to have seen some engagement beyond economic development and recentering the artist at the core of some of these conversations about how art can impact community. So, and that is a personal bias that I recognize in where the language comes from in pitching an art walk. There has to be a benefit to the artist in addition to the engaged community. But I also do believe that exposure to artwork, especially in rural settings, is a very important component. I would just like to see more conversation about the artist and demystifying the artistic process, or inviting some of those artists to talk and engage beyond the physical object. That is, I think, most of my notes.
Thank you, Erica. And Shannon, do you have any additional comments?
I really just had a question, and please correct me if I missed this in the application, but I couldn't figure out how the committee was deciding which 200 plus artists they were inviting to participate. It didn't appear that they're sending out any sort of request for proposals or an application process. So how were they ascertaining or learning, how were they researching and resourcing the artists that they wanted to invite for this?
Any thoughts on that, Erica or Marcy, or maybe that just was missing? Okay. All right. Good question. And so I'll let you three take a moment to score and let me know when you are completed, and then we will invite Michelle back into the review session. Marcy, Shannon. Thank you, Erica. I don't want to hurry you, so don't hesitate to take all the time that you need. We're doing great on time. So we'll let Michelle back in, And then we will go to the next application, which is Omaha Academy of Ballet. And Rachel, please start us off with the synopsis.
This application is for Omaha Academy of Ballet's production and presentation of the Omaha Dance Project. The annual celebration of dance is a mixed repertory performance featuring 38 dancers. It will be held at the Anderson Performing Arts Center in January of 2023. They anticipate over 600 people of all ages from the greater Omaha metro area and beyond to attend the performance.
Thank you. And our primary reviewer for Omaha Academy of Ballet is Shannon. Go ahead, Shannon. Shannon, can you unmute? Thank you.
Thank you. I knew it would happen at least once. So with this program, Omaha Dance Project is really filling a knowledge gap for aspiring dancers who might want to go on to pursue dance degrees in higher education or audition to be a company member. And so they, by gaining a firsthand experience of what it feels like to be in a company style performance, go through the rehearsal and the performance period, that is important information for these participants. The work sample, the video that they provided shows high quality production elements. They have scenic design, costuming, lighting, sound. So that all looks great. They are holding auditions for the participating dancers. It was not clear to me what the criteria are for selection. They did list that the level would be mid-range to upper level, but you know, there might be quite a few dancers in those ranges who would audition and they wouldn't be able to accommodate everybody, the size of the company. So, you know, I would love to see a little bit more information on how they are selecting. They have a stated goal of educating community dancers from diverse backgrounds, but it was not clear to me how they are connecting with a more diverse dancer base in the Omaha community. In looking at their work samples, it's pretty homogeneous group of dancers. And that raised questions for me as far as where are they promoting their auditions? Are they connecting with other dance companies in the community, particularly BIPOC-owned dance studios, to promote their auditions to really attract a more diverse audition group, even if they don't, at least that, if they don't end up casting a more diverse group. As far as outreach and engagement, they have another stated goal of giving underserved youth access to a professional style dance performance. So their approach to this is they partner with Omaha Public Schools to provide after school dance programming that I believe is free. And they are offering free tickets to those participants, but free tickets don't necessarily equate to attendance at the performance. So I would love to know what else they are doing to really engage those OPS after school participants and get them to the performances. Are they providing transportation? Are they doing talks with the students to get them excited about the program and maybe more interested in coming to see them? And then if they do come, so imagine if they do come to the performance and they don't see representation on the stage that looks like them, what kind of message is that sending to young dancers? So I have had a lot of questions around their outreach and engagement. Also, as far as partnerships, I really only saw the venue, the performance venue, listed as a partner. So I would love to know more about where else and how else they're partnering in the community to really serve a more diverse audience, which they have stated as one of their goals.
Thank you, Shannon. Great comments. And Erica, you are up for secondary review.
All right. And I believe my unique comments would be in planning and evaluation, I do think there's a very clear description of the data collection. But even better is the technical feedback given to dancers for their own development. And I think that is an important component in professional development, is that critique process for artists that I think sometimes gets glossed over. So very much appreciated seeing that in here, that it really was an inward facing professional development opportunity that might not otherwise be in the region. I did think there was a good zip code spread as far as outreach goes, but that impact is most evident looking inwards. So what is that external facing impact? And like Shannon, I was questioning whether the stated goals are reflected in the outward impact. But I do think they have a strong inward facing impact for dancers who don't otherwise have the access. Those were, I think, the unique observations that I had in my notes.
Thank you, Erica. Any other comments, Michelle or Marcy?
I guess one of my questions goes along with it. Their outreach is, for those below the poverty line, at-risk youth. Are they able to track how many of these students are, part of the after-school program? And then do any of these students ever make it into the performance itself? So just something to look at.
Good points. Okay, we'll take a moment to complete our scores. And give me a thumbs up when you're ready to move on. Thanks, Marcy. Thanks, Michelle. Gotcha, Shannon. Thank you, Erica. And our next application is the Omaha Botanical Center. And please, Rachel, give us a synopsis.
So this application is to help fund the upcoming Washed Ashore exhibit, which will be on display from January to May of 2023. It will feature giant sea creature sculptures, which are created entirely from marine debris collected from beaches. The goal of this installation is to illustrate the global issue of plastic pollution and promote awareness of the everyday habits people can adopt to help safeguard the fragile ecosystems.
Thank you for that. And our primary reviewer, we will begin with Erica.
All right, so this project will be a visual display of found object assemblage, which very happy to see that elevated as an art form. I saw some of the images of the display, and they are very arresting pieces. What I would have liked to have seen, so I think that the artistic quality is very there. The difference between quality and merit, though, for me, is connection to community. So how does this global, most of the objects are pulled out of the ocean and assembled as a thought about ocean contamination, which does relate to local waterways. And I would like to have seen that part of it expanded, or a more cohesive tie to local waterway projects and local waterway illustrations of how this relates to your audience, because it will be a very beautiful, very striking piece. But without the tie to why do we care, I think part of that got glossed over in the application, and also sort of diminishing the impacts of the work by talking about how beautiful it will be, I think there needs to be that element of horror that is inherent in the problem reflected in some of the narration, that yes, it will be beautiful. There needs to be that tie back to what can we do about the problem that's causing it, as opposed to just a celebration of reuse. So that to me, I think, was a missed opportunity in talking about Nebraska's waterways, this interconnected network that is impacted, and I think was the artist intent behind creating this work in the first place. So I think there was a missed opportunity there. In planning and evaluation, there were local ties connected within the goal description, but and references to local artists in the planning doc, but not evidenced in the narratives in the application or the budget. So where are those line items for the commissioning of regional artwork? Most of the NAC monies go towards the rental of the exhibit itself, which again will have good impact and is a beautiful set of works. But I would like to have seen more local ties to how this can positively impact the community of artists within Nebraska beyond just elevating an issue, an important issue. It is a realistic budget, but again, no line items for commissioning of new work or realizing stated goals of outreach or local engagement. For outreach and engagement, demographics for Omaha are included. I would have liked to have seen a stronger correlation to attendance or intended audience impacts for the site beyond volume and age into that demographics. That might not be something that they are currently tracking, but I do think that would get their stated outcomes closer to the stated goals. That theme of repurposing is embraced. Engagement description within the promotions section includes DEI language, but only through making their presence known to people at fairs and festivals. How does Washed Ashore meet people outside of this institution's walls? That further illustrates the commitment to engaging and the commitment to outreach that are stated in the narrative, but not necessarily reflected in the actions or the budget. Letters are both from local artists who had previously been engaged in an exhibit. So I think their letters were very positive and show that there is a connection to community, but it might have done them a little bit of a disservice in that both of those artists talked about a project where they were engaged with the development of the concept. So I think that is also a missed opportunity of those same local artists would probably like to have been invited to talk about Nebraska waterways, talk about pollution within those waterways. So I think they showed that they have done it before, but I don't know that the engagement is as reflected in this one based on the application versus what the evidence points to in their letters of support and previous works.
Thank you, Erica. Good comments. And Shannon, you can lead our secondary review.
I would just add to Erica's comments that I felt like with this application, the core of the project was clear and defined and clearly the most expensive piece, but a lot of what would be happening around it was nebulous. They have complementary programming that is being developed, but there was no clear structure around that. They have partnerships that are in discussion, but not yet in place. But I will say, kudos to them for tying the messaging of this exhibit, the environmental messaging of this exhibit, to changes within their own organization. So by creating a new on-site recycling structure and reducing their own plastic waste. They're kind of walking the talk. So I give them credit for that.
Very good. Michelle or Marcy?
I did get to see this piece when we were in Bandon, Oregon this fall, and they are beautiful sea creatures, but you also, as you get closer and you see what's used to create them, you really do get the horrors of plastic pollution. And although we don't have the waterways that Oregon has, I agree to tie it in more to the Nebraska waterways and our water systems, but it is a project worth merit. So
Thanks, Michelle.
I just would say really quickly, I don't know if I was the only one. There were times where in this application, I got a little like, okay, what's happening? Like there were some segments where I'm like, okay, wait, why are we talking about the children's garden? You know, and I think they kind of tied back around to it. They got back around to it, but there were a couple of times where I had a little trouble tracking through some of their application narrative, but I hadn't really thought about it until you ladies were discussing it, that yeah, to make ocean plastic pollution relevant locally would be nice. That would be a cool addition.
Suzanne.
I would just like to interject here how much I appreciate all of your comments, and I hope that the grant writer is listening, because I think what you've done is establish that it's a good project, but for the grant writer, you've given this person a lot of solid advice on how to craft a better application that will be very helpful to them, not only when they submit to the Nebraska Arts Council, but all the other grants that they no doubt have to write on behalf of Lawrence and Gardens. So thank you so much to all of you for that.
Thanks, Suzanne. Good comments all. We'll take a moment and you can let me know when you're ready to move on after you complete your scoring. Michelle, Shannon, Marcy. Thank you, Erica. So we are to our final grant application, which is the Valley Performing Arts Theater. And we'll get a synopsis by Rachel and then move on to the review.
Sounds good. This application is to help pay for the artist fees for the musical theater production of Puddin' in the Grumble, which will be at the Golden Husk Theater in Ord in March of 2023. They estimate 300 area students and 265 area patrons will benefit from the performance. They're also reaching out to area childcare workers to provide some continuing education hours for attending the performance and workshop. They are also going to integrate 6 local artists into the production as cast members and stage and tech crew members.
Thank you, Rachel. And our primary reviewer is Shannon.
So this is clearly a multifaceted project. There's the public performance aspect, there's the student performance aspect, there is the continuing education angle for childcare providers in the area. There's the integration of a local community member on kind of the backstage area, which would help a person gain new technical and production skills. There's also the integration of some local performers with a professional company. So there's a lot going on with this project. The artists involved in the creation of the piece and the performance, the professional company presenting the piece has great credits. Pretty much all award-winning people. The administrative arm that is in the community side also have extensive credits with presenting professional productions. So I'm really comfortable with all of that. I did have questions on the artistic side, particularly about how are the local performers being prepared to step into this piece? I couldn't find evidence of rehearsals or things leading up to the show. And so I just had a lot of questions about, do they just get plugged in, or do they get a chance to prepare? Are they being directed? How all of that worked. I also I couldn't quite figure out the community workshop component and where that fit with all of this. I decided ultimately that maybe the community workshop and the post-show talkbacks were the same thing, but it's possible that they weren't, and that there was something that was separate that was just for the childcare providers. So I was kind of confused by all of that. Their goals are clearly identified. They are planning to do an evaluation afterward for, I think mostly for participants, and they did provide sample evaluation questions, which I thought was very helpful. I didn't really see them planning to also involve partners in providing feedback, which is always a good idea. I also had, back to the local artists. I also was wondering if they are being auditioned or is it by invitation? So another question in my mind. On the budget side, they included a salary for the assistant director, but no information on who that person is. They also included income for concession sales, but I didn't see any correlating expense on the budget for concession supplies. Maybe they're being donated. If so, it would be good for them to indicate that in the budget. And then there was also a note in the budget about an expense for the free student matinee, and I wasn't sure what that meant. And there was also family pass tickets were listed in two different places on the income. I suspect one of those was sponsorship money to underwrite the family pass tickets that were being given away, but I suggest they provide a little more clarity around that. They did provide extensive demographics for the community and the county, the surrounding county. There was a reference to a percentage of foreign-born people, which in my mind, that doesn't exactly equate to racial breakdown, because you can be of a different race but not be foreign-born. So just another little clarifying point. They're serving a lot of different needs through this production. They're enhancing arts experience in a rural region that is underserved for arts programming. They are using art to build awareness around issues that are directly impacting residents in their community. They are using art to attract younger families and service providers to the area to kind of continue that growth and sense of vitality in their community. And I also love that they were providing some free tickets and transportation for senior citizens in their community. So again, not just giving the tickets, but figuring out how to get them there as well. So providing the whole support. I think the letters of support shows strong partnerships, both with the presenting organization and their local childhood initiative that supports their childcare providers. That's it.
Very good, Shannon. Thank you. And Erica, will you please lead us in the secondary review with any additional comments?
Yeah, I don't have many additional comments because Shannon very thoroughly went through some of the items that might need more clarification, namely in the budget. My only other note within the budget is that there are some other things that look like they might be in the wrong spot. I think of directors as artists themselves. I do think that kind of needs to be moved into an artist fee, not administration. But those are small little shuffles that I think are more of a technical thing than a merit-based thing. Got a little teary when you could get some of your credits for care providers within this. So not just a tie conceptually, but benefit for giving up your time and illustrating how arts can be a method of learning that has value and merit that is measurable for a professional, I think is a very strong component of recognizing the power of the arts, not just within rural communities, but within professional skill sets that need to be refreshed and come with some professional credits with it. So those are, I think, the only 2 points that I had that that were outside of Shannon's comments.
Thank you, Erica. And Marcy or Michelle, do you have any additional comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, so at this point, all of the applications have been discussed, and we are going to move into a 5-minute break, during which this time the scores will be tallied. We will then reconvene. However, the final portion of the meeting is closed to the public, and we will be ending the live stream. Before we end the live stream, I do want to publicly thank all of the reviewers. You came in so well prepared. You had intelligent, insightful comments that obviously you just showed your own commitment to helping move this process forward. And the pedagogy that you provided will be so helpful for all of these organizations and those in charge of grant writing. Great comments to make. So Mike or Suzanne or Rachel, do you have anything, any other instructions at this point before we leave live stream? All right. So
Sam, if you want to go ahead and stop the live stream and